Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video, especially if you watched the previous video that I had on the server installation, the first video in our FIM or Microsoft Identity Manager installation series. I was going to call it FIM. But I just finished recording that video and I'm moving on to the actual production AD machine. I wasn't going to show that complete install. What I was just going to do was I was just going to have it up and ready so we can export right out of it. But I thought I was telling you about the core and the GUI installation. So I thought, well, why don't I just show you the actual core and what it looks like. I'll do the exact same thing I did with the GUI, but I'm actually going to do the exact same thing as I did with the GUI, except I'm going to have to do that in the command line. I thought maybe it might be good for you to see the 2016 core, just since I showed off the GUI. So let's actually jump right into that. Notice I still have, it's my sandbox AD is still trying to boot up. It's still starting its services. So I'm actually just going to run through and start up a new installation and do the actual core install. So, okay, here we go. We're at the very beginning. It says we need to change the administrator password before we log in. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, it has been changed. All right, so now we get the administrator command prompt. Here we go. Here's the core. So if you've been scared of core before, or if you've been apprehensive about it, don't be. Almost everything that you can do in the GUI, you can do in the core. You just may not. You just have to get comfortable with it. So let's do the exact same things that we did in the GUI. Well, first thing, we went into Server Manager and we changed some of the properties. Well, there isn't a Server Manager. If I had another machine to where I could connect to over the network, I could, say in a Windows 10, install the Server Manager administrative tool. But I don't have that. So I'm actually going to use the SConfig command. Now this is the server configuration command line utility. And looks fairly familiar, doesn't it? Not everything's here, but most of it is. So we'll do the exact same thing. I'm going to start in reverse, starting with number 9. I'm going to set the date and time. I'm going to change the time zone again to -5 Eastern. And then I'm going to go to my network settings, number 8. And I only have one network card in here. And that's telling me that, okay, I have the Intel 21140. And so it's wanting an index here of index of 1. That's in the first column. Now, okay, what do I want to do with the adapter settings? Well, I actually want to set the network adapter address with 1. Okay, and it's saying, do I want this to be DHCP or do I want it to be static? Well, I do want to be static, so I'm going to set that. I'm going to use S here. And now we're actually going into typing in the IP address. So what I'm going to do is 192.168.1.20. I'm just going to go 10 up from our sandbox machine. I'm going to leave the default subnet mask. And I'm not going to put in a gateway. I'll just hit enter again. Now I'm going to hit number 2. And then we're going to set our DNS servers. Our preferred DNS server is again going to be that address itself the .20, and I'll hit enter. Okay, preferred DNS server is set. I'll say okay. and I'm not going to have an alternate address, so I'll hit enter for none. I'm going to hit 4 to return to the main menu. And then the next thing that I can do in here is change the computer name. So I'm going to hit number 2. And my new computer name is going to be prod-AD. That's what I'm going to name it. I'll say enter. And it says, would we like to restart? So yes, please. Okay, we're back up here. So I'm going to log back in. And we're back to the command prompt. So we've did most of the things in the server configurator. Now, there are a few things that we couldn't do that we did in the GUI. We didn't have any option, and I'll go back in here so you can see. We didn't have any option for firewall. We also didn't have any option to rename our network card or to turn off IPv6. And there's no option to install the Active Directory Domain Services role or to promote it either. So I'm going to jump over to PowerShell and do that. So I'm going to hit 15 and exit out of that. And I'm going to type in PowerShell. I do almost, if I type in PowerShell and spell it correctly, I almost do everything in PowerShell. It's built off of C#. I started my programming venture in C#, so it's very familiar to me. So the first thing that I want to do is turn off IPv6. That's not really necessary, but since I did it in the GUI, I want to show you how to do it here. So there is a command in here, git-net adapter. And I started typing net A and hit tab, and it completed it for me. So I hit return. So there's my one network adapter. If I had more than one in there, I could actually do I believe it's a -I, and I don't know the rest of the command, so I'll hit tab. So there's an IF alias, there's an interface alias, interface description, IF description, interface index. So I could actually do git net adapter space dash interface index and type in 2. And I will actually pull up just that single network adapter. That's important because of this next command we're going to do. So we're turning off IPv6, and what IPv6 is, it's a network adapter binding. It's there are multiple bindings back in the day, and there might even still be. I haven't needed to try and install or add IPv6, NetWare, AppleTalk, if you remember that. And if you don't remember that or not old enough to remember that, that was the option. You could install AppleTalk, you could install IPX, different protocols. So to actually view what adapter bindings there are on this network adapter, I'm going to pipe the results from the net adapter command, only pulling interface index of 2, onto another command called git net adapter. I'm going to hit tab to get through these. Network adapter binding, and I'll say enter. So here are all my adapter bindings for the interface index of 2. You can see I have the IPv6 for the network adapter multiplex protocol, and then the link layer, topology discovery, all of these other ones here. And if you look in the far right-hand column, all of them are enabled except for the network adapter multiplexer protocol, excuse me. So what we need to do is just disable the IPv6 version. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to kind of do the same thing we did with the net adapter command. We need to specify the component ID of MS TCP IP6. And then I'm just going to hit enter. Make sure I just pull that one command. And that one result. And there we go. So I'm going to hit the up arrow and I'm going to do a pipe again. And then I'm just going to say disable net adapter binding. Not net adapter. I'm hitting tab to go through these. Here we go, net adapter binding. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm just going to hit my up arrow to get all the network adapter bindings. And there we go. We see that IPv6 has been disabled. So the next thing that I did in the GUI, I did it a little beforehand. I'm doing it a little out of order, but I renamed the network adapter itself to Sandbox. So I'm going to do the same thing because like I said before, it's not really necessary, but I want to show you. So again, I'm going to get the network adapter. I'm just going to up arrow. I'm going to get that specific network adapter. I'm going to just hit enter. There's the interface. I'm going to hit the up arrow and I'm going to pipe that one result again to another command called rename net adapter. And then there is a parameter in here called new name. And I'm just going to name it Sandbox. And I'm going to up again to just show you that that name did in fact change. So thankfully, with the magic of post editing, I'm able to actually plop this clip right in the middle of the video, because while I was editing, I realized, oops, I forgot to show them how to disable their firewall. So there is a command called get net firewall, and we're looking for profile. So I'm tabbing all the way through and I'm going to hit enter on this, and it's going to bring up 3 different profiles. Our public, which is enabled. Our private, which is enabled. And our domain, which is enabled. I'm going to hit the up arrow. And before, in our net adapter command, we actually specified an individual adapter. Well, the reason I showed you that is because you wouldn't want to run a command on, you wouldn't want to pipe all of your results. You only want to pipe a specific result. Well, it's the same. Well, it's actually in reverse on this one. We want to pipe all of these results because we want to disable all of them, all of the profiles. So we're actually going to leave the get net firewall profile. But if you wanted to only disable the domain profile, you could just run this command and receive only the domain profile. But we're actually going to disable all of them by using the pipe and disable. Actually, it's not disable, it's set net firewall profile. And then there is a property in here called enabled. And all we need to do is type in the word false and hit enter. And now we'll go back up and pull all the net firewall profiles and make sure that they are in fact disabled. And they are. Okay, now on to the next portion of it, which is installing the Active Directory Domain Services role. And if you remember, we also installed the management tools to go along with that role. That'll be important here in a second. So installing roles and features, it's actually a Windows feature, even though they may call it a role. So if you use the command get Windows feature, it'll pull a long list of all the available features. So if I scroll up to the top, I should see Active Directory domain services. Here we go. And what I actually want is this name right here. So I'm going to highlight it and right click to put it in my clipboard. And I'm going to hit enter to go back down to the very bottom here. Now I'm going to do an install Windows feature, tab to complete. Then I'm going to just space, and I'm going to use my Control V to paste the name of that role. So I said we need to install the management tools as well. In the GUI it prompted us. It knew that, hey, we may need the management tools. Well, it's not going to do that in the command line. There is actually a switch that we need to include, which is include management tools. I just started to type in IN and hit tab until I got to the include management tools. And I'll go ahead and hit enter. So here we go. It's installing the Active Directory Domain Service Management Tools, and it shouldn't take too long. This is really good. You can script this. If you remember just a few moments ago, there was a PowerShell script. Excuse me, not a few moments ago. In the previous video, it was a few moments ago for me. So in the previous video, when we were in the promotion wizard, at the confirmation, there was a view script. It gave us a PowerShell command of exactly what we put in the GUI. Well, I didn't save that before I let the server restart, so I'm going to have to do that over again. But I'll show you how to do that. It's a really nice feature because I can script installations. I can tell it to do things like restart once the installation is completed, restart once the promotion is completed, or don't restart. And all of this can be done through a scheduled task. You can even do it remotely if you like. So that's the power of PowerShell. So let's go ahead and go on and actually do our AD promotion. So I know, just because I know that it's there, and you can, if you looked at the PowerShell script from the GUI, you would see something that said import module. Modules are like little scripts that contains commands. And sometimes you have to import them before you're able to use some commands. And this domain, to promote it to a domain controller, is one of those instances. So what I'm going to do is actually get module, and I'm going to do dash list available. And I'll hit enter. And it's going to list all of my modules that are installed on the server or underneath my specific user account. So if I go up here, okay, here it is, ADDS deployment. So that's the module I want to import. So I'm just going to start typing import module ADDS deployment. Now what do I do next? I see over here in the far right hand column there's some commands here, but how do I view all of them? Well, there's also another command called get commands, and then I can do a parameter of module and include the ADDS module DDS deployment, excuse me. So the command we're going to use is actually the install ADDS forest command. But what if you don't know all of the switches and parameters? I know these because I've used them many times. But what if you don't? Well, there is a get help. And so if you do get help and the command, or even a part of the command, it'll give you a list of possibilities. So here's our syntax for the install ADDS forest. So we're going to do almost the exact same thing, as we did in the GUI. So we're going to do install ADDS Forest. Our domain name is actually going to be, it's going to be production instead of sandbox, but it's going to be production.local. And I'm just moving on through here. Our safe mode administrator password. And that is in a secure string. Okay, a secure string is, it's basically so you can include this in the script and it's not in plain text. Well, I'm in the command line and I can't type in, if I start typing in, let's do safe mode administrator password. If I start typing in ABC123, it won't accept it because it's not a secure string. So I need to do a little manipulating here. So I'm going to open a parentheses, and then I'm going to do a single quote, apostrophe here, and I'm going to type in my password ABC123. Then I'm going to end my quote. And now we're going to go back and use our little pipe. So what we're doing here is, well, I'm going to close out this parentheses and move before it. So in the parentheses, it's just like the order of operations in math. It's going to run this before it actually runs the entire command. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So it's parentheses, exponents, division. Is that right? Parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. That's your order of operations in math. Well, in some ways, there's an order of operations in commands. So it will run this command that's in parentheses before it runs the entire command. So I'm actually going to pipe that string I just gave it to a command called convert to secure string. And then I'm going to say as plain text and then force. So having all of that in parentheses will take my ABC123 string and convert it to a secure string, so that the safe mode administrator password property will accept my ABC123. If any of that makes sense. If you need me to explain it a little more, just ask me in the comments and I'll try and give you some more examples. So let's move on here. Our next relevant command is domain mode, and that's going to be when threshold. Domain net BIOS name is going to be production. Our force mode is going to be when threshold. We want it to install DNS. And that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And it said this target server will be configured as a domain controller and restarted. You want to do this? Yes, please. So it's doing the same thing it did in GUI. It's verifying the prerequisites. It's giving us the same warning messages. So hopefully this makes you a little less scared of the core installation, because there are benefits to it. You don't have the full GUI running. It's a slimmer version. It's more secure because not everyone would understand it. If you accidentally have a user log into it, they're not going to be able to start using it like a server. I mean, like a GUI server. So this has been a little side video on the core installation, just so you can kind of see the same things. Thank you very, very much if you're watching this video. This would be my second video that I've created. And keeping it under the 30-minute mark. Let me know some comments. Yeah, this time is pretty good. Like it a little less. I'd like it a little longer. But constructive criticism is always good. I don't mind hearing it. Again, please be nice. So thank you. And I hope to see you actually in my next video is going to be, I'm going to go right into the importing and exporting of AD accounts and continue on in the FIM series. So thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you like it, please hit the little like button for me, and I'll see you next time.